Hello students, welcome to week 1 for COM 525 Media Effects on Communication and Behavior. My name is Dr. Sandra Romo and I am excited to serve as your professor this semester. I wanted to first, before we get into the nit and the grit of our course, give you some personal overview. You can see some pictures here of my family and my Girl Scout troop and my children and such. I have been married to my husband Mark for almost 11 years, and we have two beautiful children, my son Nicholas and my daughter Emma. We are avid Green Bay Packers fans, so I posted a picture from Lambeau Field there that shares what one of our passions is, which is football, but also the Packers as well. I also posted a picture of my Girl Scout troop. I've been a leader for 3 years since my daughter was old enough to be a part of Girl Scouts, and I think it's just a blessing to be able to invest into the lives of girls and empower just children in general to understand that they can become strong leaders no matter what in any circumstance they prefer. So that was just some information to kind of give you some personal perspective of the person behind the video screen, giving you instruction and helping you along your way to really truly understand what media effects is and how that relates to communication, really at a graduate level for the MAC program. So some just general professional overview. Like I said, my name is Dr. Romo. I am the program director for the Master of Arts and Bachelor of Arts Communication programs here in the CBU Online and Professional Studies division. I have served as a professor with CBU. This is my 8th year, so I've had a lot of experience in interacting with students online and on ground in the traditional daytime undergraduate program as well as online in our online programs. So as your program director, I will oversee and facilitate your capstone project for the graduate program. So if that's coming up soon for you within the next couple of semesters, definitely touch base with me. If not, that's fine. Still touch base with me. We are always thinking about that capstone project and where we are at with that within our program. My office is Tyler Plaza. It's on the Ops campus, not the CBU main campus. I'm in room number 300-318, which is just a fancy way for saying I'm on the 3rd floor of the Ops Tyler Plaza building in office number 318. So you can contact me at the Ops office by walking into the 2nd floor reception area and asking for me by name. Email is the most efficient and best way to get in touch with me. If you want to come in and see me during my office hours, I have office hours scheduled from 8 to 12 Monday and Tuesday, but I am available by appointment the rest of the week. Just get in touch with me by phone or email. Most pertinent questions related to assignments and things of that nature, email is the best mode of communication. I have it synced to my phone, so I'm constantly getting updates from that. I respond back rather quickly, and I utilize that as a way to interact with you on a near instant basis. Do remember though, all emails will be responded within 24 hours. It's usually sooner, and that excludes weekends and holidays and non-business hours as well. Looking at the syllabus review, it is required that students read the syllabus on their own. It's very important that they do that and that you are aware of the content in that, the information in the syllabus on your own. This review does not circumvent the syllabus. It's not in addition to the syllabus. It's just highlighting some areas of the syllabus that are to your advantage to be aware of. First and foremost, all discussion board assignments have 2 deadlines. Your original post is due on Thursday and your reply post to 3 students are due on Sunday. So you can do that anytime throughout the week, but the hard deadline for your original post, your answer to a discussion board assignment or any assignment that's related to a discussion board, is Thursday. Your reply posts need to be posted no later than Sunday to at least 3 students. Graduate work requires us to be highly interactive and thinking very analytically and deeply at many of the things within graduate studies, especially at the communication level and such. So 3 students is the requirement. Also, make sure to check what the deadlines are for week 8. The week 8 deadlines vary, and so it's up to you to know about that. As a general rule, any non-discussion board assignment has a firm deadline of Sunday in the week in which it's assigned at 11:59 p.m. Anything that requires a discussion board post has an original post deadline of Thursday and the replies of Sunday. Week 8 tends to throw a big kink into the mix when it comes to that, only because we have a tight turnaround on grades. Usually the course ends at 11:59 on a Sunday, and I have to turn grades in by noon that Monday. So we do make some variations to that, so be aware of that early on in the semester. Also know that late work is not accepted under any circumstance. If you've had a class with me before, this is not out of the norm. Plan ahead and plan accordingly for situations where you think that you may have some timeliness issues with turning work in, if we're going to call it that. So plan ahead. If you're traveling, that's fine. If you need adjustments to deadlines, that's okay if you contact me ahead of time. That's not a late work extension. That's not accepting late work. That's you contacting the professor and saying, hey, guess what, Dr. Romo, I'm going to be out of town during week 5, and I'm probably not going to have Wi-Fi that weekend, just with the way that the airline travel is and such. So what should we do? And I'll work with you a deadline, usually turning the work in early since you're contacting me ahead of time. Weekly lecture viewing is required. That's not a non-negotiable. There are many things in the weekly lectures that are pertinent to successfully completing the assignments. That doesn't mean that you can't go through the course on your own without viewing any of the lectures and completing the assignments. You can do that, but successful completion of the assignments usually comes from reviewing a lot of the information that is included in the weekly lecture. So that's required. Also, graduate level course expectations state that all assignments must cite the course text and readings, one of those if there's a PDF or something like that, as well as 2 outside sources. This is the norm in graduate studies. We're graduate level students. We're at the point now where we're thinking deeply about ideas and constructing our own ideas about it. So we're beginning to think deeply about it and say, hey, this is how I feel about this. In order to do that, you have to corroborate it. You have to give me proof of 2 other people or 2 other sources that support the assertions, the argument you're trying to make. So that's the implicit expectation throughout the course. I'm going to be looking and analyzing and looking at your references and say, okay, did they cite the text? Yes, they did. Did they cite at least 2 other outside sources? Yes, they did. Okay, they're really starting to think deeply about this. They've thought about this at a highly intellectual level, scholarly level, and are beginning to become their own communication scholar, which is what we do in grad school with communication studies. We become communication scholars. We start to be able to get into communication and think about it from a scholarly perspective, making ideas and assumptions about how we communicate and how behaviors influence the communication process at a graduate level expectation. So keep that in mind as we go through it. Some things to expect. This may look unnormal to you, but this is just some navigational things to know about the course. This is a sample course. This is not your course, so don't get confused when you see this agenda or anything. It has nothing to do with your course. It's just for sample sake. You'll see here that this is our weekly agenda. It clearly tells you what to read, what to watch, that's required in addition to the weekly lecture, and what to complete. Remember, this is a sample, so these are not the assignments this week. It's just a sample for you to see. So it's important that you look at the read, watch, complete. Those 3 things tell you right there, I'm going to read this week. I'm going to watch these things in addition to the lecture Dr. Romo posts, and I'm going to complete these things. If it's a discussion board, I've even done you the honor of reminding you as to when it's due. Remember, in our course, it's Thursday, not Friday. This is just a sample, and the replies are due by Sunday. In addition, all weekly lectures will be posted as an announcement. Announcements are sent out via email, as well as posted in the announcement section of the course Blackboard module homepage. You'll see it right here, and it'll say like week 1 lecture, week 2 update, whatever it may be. You click it, you'll see it embedded as a YouTube video. You can watch that on any device that streams YouTube, either via app or your computer, and it should be pretty easy for you to get through it. My best piece of advice is listen to it on your way to work when you're sitting in traffic, or pop through it when you're sitting at maybe your kids' practice or whatever it may be, and tune into it, listening to it. The majority of what I have to say is the most important. I do have visuals in there, and it is important for you to see those visuals, but if you're driving, you can definitely stream it through your phone if you want to listen to it as you're on your way to work or whatever it may be. I've made efforts to make sure that we're streaming most of this through YouTube, so it's easily replicated across multiple devices for you for your advantage. Next slide is also review. I'm just reviewing this across the board, the beginning of the semester and all of my courses. This is what the My Grades section looks like. If you look at number 1 here, if you want to click to view an attempt on an assignment, you click the hyperlink, which is the title of the assignment. Next, it shows your attempts. So if you have multiple attempts, that's great. Your latest attempt, the last attempt submitted, is where you'll click the calculated grade, which is hyperlinked, the number's hyperlinked, and it'll come up with a screen that shows you the submission. You can click rubric if there's a rubric attached, which will show you your feedback, or you can go to the very bottom that says response feedback and click there to view instructor feedback, or in some cases it's just right below there. That's just a little overview. Some of you, this isn't your first rodeo, you're very familiar with that process. In case you're new, I wanted to provide that to you to take a look at here. So here's a screen capture of the week 1 agenda in Blackboard for this week. You can see here that we're reading chapters 9 and 23 of our course text, we are watching a couple of videos here that help us understand what media effects is. Now, one thing I do want to say about this enormous text here, media effects. This text is really designed as a research reader. Each of these chapters aren't really chapters per se, but rather they are journal articles put into an edited book that helps us understand what media effects is. So when I say chapter 9, I do mean chapter 9, but in all sense of the matter, chapter 9 really deals with our psychopsychology meets media, taking the effects out of mass media research, and chapter 23 deals with effects of media on eating disorders and body image. So they're really just scholarly pursuits. These are usually rooted in research, which it is actual research that have been conducted by professors and other communication scholars to determine some type of media effects. So keep that in mind when you read through it. It's not like most typical textbooks that have lots of graphics and things of that nature. You're really just reading journal articles that are combined into a volume that we're calling media effects that helps us get through the course and understanding the course material at a deeper level. You're going to watch 2 TED Talks that talk about looking at media from different perspectives, listening to global voices, and looking at photographs of bearing witness to media effects on there, and then also a lecture on media effects, the effects of media on children, which is very, very profound. You have 1 discussion board this week. You'll see that it's kind of light in the beginning of the term because we do have a heavy critical assignment. So we're really just kind of wetting our whistle this week when it comes to media effects. We have an original post due Thursday and a reply post due Sunday. Your discussion board asks you to choose any chapter from the course text, so that's really any article in the text. Read that and answer the following prompt in less than 500 words. After you've answered the prompt, respond to at least 3 students with at least a 200-word response to each student. Keep in mind, exemplary responses will include at least 2 outside scholarly sources. That's important to keep in mind, and everything will be formatted in APA. So here is your prompt right here, and I can't draw a circle very well with my mouse, so excuse that. But 1, you'll be discussing what you believe are the most compelling research findings and contentions made by the author in the article or chapter you selected. Next, you'll discuss specifically how the body of scholarly research you read about might be applied or further extended to research initiatives that deal with media effects, either in social media, cell phone smart usage, or popular music. Really, I'm asking you to look at the chapter you read and how it may apply to some type of digital or new media technology. That's it right there for number 2, and to discuss that. Bring in some outside sources to support your assertions, and you'll meet your source requirement right there. 3, you're going to evaluate how the key research findings and contentions in the chapter you selected may be very relevant or guide Christian communicators in efforts to express Christian faith in some way. So tell me how we're going to think Christianly about this, how this particular finding of media effects tells us that we are tells us how or how we may rather integrate this into thinking Christianly. And remember, the discussion board asks that you choose any chapter from the course text. that's not exempt to the course reading. So you do not have to read beyond the course reading for the week. It's encouraged that you read another chapter. We're not going to get through all 30 some odd chapters of that text in this term. So it is encouraged that you pick a chapter that's outside of the course reading, but you don't have to. If you really found chapter 23 on media effects and body image fascinating and you want to write on it by all means. Next, I'm going to just touch on some things that are kind of undercurrent recurring themes we'll see throughout the course. The first is media and ideology. Many media scholars, those are people that are measuring effects, and remember media effects on communication behavior really tends to look at how the media influences communication and behaviors within society on the masses. So we're looking at the effects of media. So by watching this, we see this effect on society, this communication behavior. So since we're a smartphone nation, the advent of the cell phone has created this within society. We're constantly looking down at our phone and not paying attention to our interpersonal interaction as much. That would be a media effect. It's important, though, that we are always looking at ideology when we do this. Ideology, in the sense of media, refers to a system of meaning that helps define and explain the world and makes value judgments about that world. So we're defining and explaining the world while making value judgments about that world. That's what ideology is, and that's our undercurrent theme of media effects. So one thing I'll be looking for on all assignments is, how does this relate to ideology? Ideology is defining how people define and explain the world and then make value judgments of that world. So I said the world is this. I know my faith has taught me the world is this, so I make value judgments about the world based off of my faith. That would be my personal ideology. So we're looking at things like that and how it has influence on people's on communication behavior and making media effects on people and in society. Keep that in mind. That's a general undercurrent of theme that we'll be going through. We'll look at that and other things more explicitly throughout this semester. I just want to touch on that now. And also, in examining ideology of media, scholars really don't focus much on individual media texts, such as television programs, films, but their collective implications for defining and thinking about social, cultural, and political issues. So we, in some instances, will look at a specific show like Scandal or House of Cards or things like that and look at the implications of those individual programs. But as a whole, what we'll do is we may look at things like political drama in television in general, and then make generalizations off of that in research to talk about their collective implications. That's what that's getting at. So we can look as a whole at social media, that's what we would do to make generalizations off of the collective implications rather than just looking at Instagram or rather than just looking at Twitter. Generally, when it comes to ideology, we'll look at all those individual studies, a study on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so on, so on, so on, so on, bring them together, and from an ideological perspective, make a collective generalization about what that means. So as we go through some of those things this semester, keep that in mind. Again, just to recap, here's our agenda. Here are the things we were reading. We're completing a discussion board, post, watching some videos, things of that nature. When you get to the discussion board, do not forget to pick any chapter in the text, and it's strongly, strongly encouraged you pick one outside of the course reading, although that's not an explicit requirement. I really want you to get in there and to start thinking scholarly about what some of these communication and media effects scholars are saying about media and how it affects society, because it really has a profound implication on Christian scholars. So as Christians, how we think Christianly and how we can maybe utilize media and look at the effects that it has and maybe spreading the gospel or things of that nature. Like I said, if you need to get in touch with me at all, this is my contact info. I look forward to interacting with you online. I just pray you all have a blessed week, and I will interact with you all soon, and I look forward to getting to know you this semester. Thanks.